You said it started in 1987. So what was the atmosphere around the topic of abortion prior to Operation Rescue then? Are you saying that it was sort of just tacitly accepted more than it was, say, later in the 90s and early
Oh, good
2000s?
grief. Yes, it was by the time by 1987, abortion was not in the top 10 voter issues.
Wow. Okay, I actually didn't know that.
Yes, it had just
I
fallen
just had
off
to
the
sort of
radar.
assume that it was a constant, and if anything, that the most extreme responses to it would have been around the time of Roe, when
Well,
it was new.
it was a bigger deal earlier, but by 87, it was not in the top 10. But here's what
It
happened.
was a fact of life, sort of like a lot of Europeans think about it.
Well, I've had a couple people tell me if it wasn't for Operation Rescue, we would look at America like England, France, Germany, where it's just accepted and there's nothing you can do about it and there's no political force to make it illegal.
Wow.
So we started in 87. By the election of 88, we had already had thousands and thousands and thousands of people arrested all over the country. We were national news, front page of the newspapers all over the country, 48 hours, 2020, 60 minutes. I mean, it was huge. Oprah Winfrey. And it went from being not on the radar to the ABC exit poll on election day, 1988. Abortion was number one. It was the number one voter issue. So we
Wow.
had driven it from political oblivion, if you will, or the obscurity, to the front page. And suddenly the Christian community said, yeah, we've got to stop this. And the fruit of it was it became a hot button political issue. You have to remember that there was a time when the Democrat Party had a lot of pro-lifers and the Republican Party had pro-choice people in it. But the rescue movement created an enormous amount of political pressure on the Republican Party to become hardcore pro-life and to have it be a litmus test for candidates and the push to have it be a litmus test for Supreme Court justices. So there's a book out called Wrath of Angels, which was written, I think, in 96. And it was written by a Pulitzer Prize winning New York Times author, James Risen, and by Judy Thomas. And both of them very skilled journalists for the Wichita Eagle, Kansas City Star, and then the New York Times. So they wrote this book, and they're not our friends. They are not our friends, but you could see that when you read the book. But the premise of their book was that without Operation Rescue, there would have been no religious right as we understand it today. That the rescue movement provided the fuel and the manpower and the momentum and the money and the passion to create the religious right where abortion was now number one. The killing of babies, stopping the murder of babies was priority number one.
I like, Randall, that you're not contemptuous of the less radical aspects of the pro-life movement. If you think back to the civil rights movement, there was often hostility between the less radical and the more radical, wings of the civil rights movement. Now, Malcolm X, for example, displayed some self-awareness when he said, basically, they need me to push people towards Martin Luther King, because they need to see it's going to be one or the other. And so if they don't want me, then they can go to him and go and
That's funny.
not let it get to the point where it's going to be violence, which I think is kind of cool. But
Well, let me address that.
there was a sense of some kind of, what's that?
Let me address it because there was a lot of tension
Sure.
in the pro-life movement in those days. National Right to Life pretended we did not exist. And there was
Oh, really? Okay.
there was hostility. They were so upset that we had become the voice of the pro-life movement, and they did not have the 5 rules. So if you don't have radical rhetoric and incendiary images, for example, if you have pictures of the Holocaust, if you're a journalist and you got into Auschwitz or Dachau during the Holocaust, and you took pictures of the Jews or you took film footage of the Jews and the torture and the death, and you got out and you refused to show it, well, what does that make you? It makes you a collaborator, because
Right.
they want to hide the truth,
Yeah.
and you're helping them hide the truth. So we would say to people, look, you have to show these images. And there were people in various organizations who refused, who said, no, it's distasteful, it'll hurt the mom's feelings who had an abortion, it's counterproductive. And we would say, nonsense. Nonsense. There is no social revolution that has survived and existed and prevailed without showing victims. So think of Emmett Till, think of the dogs and the water cannons and the brutality from police in the civil rights movement. Think of South Africa. Think of the grimy little boys. I mean, it's a part of our arsenal that we must use, is to show the truth. So
Yeah.
for me, the issue is this. If someone wants to run a crisis pregnancy center, I started one. It's still going to this day. I love crisis pregnancy centers. I love sidewalk counseling. I spent the Lord knows how many days in front of abortion mills in the hot and in the cold, begging for babies' lives. I personally saved over 50 children just standing there begging for the baby's life over the course of years. So I love that stuff. The problem is, a lot of aspects of the pro-life movement are like a MASH unit. They're a hospital unit. You don't put your MASH unit in charge of the army. That's the issue. We have to have shock troops. We have to have the rules of righteous revolution. We must respond to abortion in a way that is equal to the crime. So if we believe abortion is murder, we have to act like it's murder. You don't have, well, I just want a place at the table to discuss this with Planned Parenthood and with the government. I don't want a place at their table. I want to turn their table into firewood. So part of our mistake in the pro-life movement is that we allowed people who did not have a passion for cultural war, because that's what we're in. We're in a culture war. They did not have a passion or an understanding of it. We put them in charge of armies. I know of a major pro-life organization today, two of them, I will not name names, both of them with multi-million-dollar budgets. One of them, it is their policy to not show any images of aborted babies. That's collaboration. Another one, multi-million-dollar budget, activists, but they're really nervous about getting sued, so they want to be very careful how they deal with Walgreens, who is now going to sell this human murdering drug, RU486. So I would encourage your viewers to keep their ear to the earth, because there's some people that are going to start bringing activism, peaceful, but yet confrontational, activism to the Walmart chain. I'm sorry, the Walgreen chain. Because we've got to get one of them to crack and not sell this drug. And it's not going to happen by sitting at our computer and signing an online petition. Those things are just scams to get your email address. That's all they are. Does anyone really believe that if 100,000 signatures come in online, that anyone at Walgreens cares? All people have done is build up somebody's email list so that they can rent the email list and send out email. I mean, that's an industry. So we have a very small email list. We don't do online petitions because so many of them are, they're just dishonest. We've got to have real, true culture war. The Edmund Pettus Bridge was a real bridge, and the civil rights people had to cross it. So that's the, and also if people, I know that people might not know this, they can go to randallterry.com. Almost everything that we make is free. My books, DVDs, training series, we make this stuff available for free. If somebody wants to make a contribution, they can. We would be thankful. But we're not here to make money. We're here to make war on the baby killing industry. Peaceful political war.
Now, of course, what God ultimately wants, the most important thing, is saving souls. But I really liked a line that you said in this promo, which is that, there was one day slavery was legal and another day it was illegal, and probably not many hearts were changed between those moments. And what changed was the law. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yes. There's a number of people who kind of adopted this. It was really more like a slogan that, we've got to love them both. And the pro-life movement is here to instruct people and to teach people. Well, those things are important, but the pro-life movement exists to make abortion a crime. That's the goal. If it was a catechism question, it would be, what is the chief end of the pro-life movement? Answer: the chief end of the pro-life movement is to make it a crime to kill a human being from conception until birth. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So do I want to change hearts? Sure. But if I'm a slave and I'm in bondage, what do I want? Freedom. I want my slave owner to let me go. And frankly, I don't care if his heart has changed. I want to be free.
Nor do you want your freedom to depend on the goodwill of any particular individual.
Exactly. Oh, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that line. Thank you. So we have to hone in on the mission. The mission is to make it a crime. And part of that mission, I know we got to go, but part of that mission is going to be that we tell our fellow Christians, stop sinning with your vote. Stop sinning with your vote. Over half of the Catholic community and about 1/3 of the evangelical community have voted for Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, who all said, we're going to kill babies. We're going to try and take your money to pay for other people to kill their babies. And those Catholics and those evangelicals who claim to be followers of Christ, who voted for these baby killers, they sinned with their vote, period. Mm-hmm. So we have to start telling people in our parishes, in our churches, stop sinning with your vote. If you vote for someone who told you they're going to kill babies, you're an accessory to their crimes.